Hi and welcome everyone to another video on my channel. My name is Denis and today we're going to talk about the biggest traps in FPL you should avoid for the next season. If you enjoy my content, leave a like, hit that subscribe button, but now let's get into it. Okay, so as I said before, today we're going to take a look at some players I think that you should avoid at least at the moment in FPL for the next season. Now here we're going to have Cunha and Mbeumo Bruno. You're not going to see the prices here, but Cunha and Mbeumo both are priced at 8 million and Bruno Fernandes is 9 millions. Now, keep in mind that because it's going to be important in a little. Now, one of the main reasons I think that Man United midfielders, especially these midfielders, are going to need to be avoided for the first part of the season is that they are going to play against Manchester City, Arsenal and Chelsea in the first 5 game weeks of the season. So the fixtures are not amazing for Manchester United. Yes, they're going to play against Burnley, against a new promoted side in those 5 games, but still the fixtures are really bad for Man United. Now again, we all know that Man United were really bad last season, and that's not the only reason why I think that we should avoid these players. I think that Man United are going to improve this season. I think that they did a really great job in the transfer market by buying Cunha, the best players from Wolverhampton, and Brian Mbeumo from Brentford. So those players are just going to improve the squad, but I just don't think that we should expect too much from them. Now, let's try to not involve Bruno Fernandes in the first conversation because I want to try to make a comparison between Cunha and Mbeumo and why I think that we should avoid them at least in the start of the season. Now here you're going to see also the stats for the last two season. It's not so relevant, but if you look at them, you're going to see that they scored a good amount of goals in 2023, 2022. As you can see, Cunha 12 goals and Mbeumo 9 goals. But now just try to look for last season because you're going to hear this a lot from a lot of people. Cunha and Mbeumo were two of the best overperformance last season in terms of goals compared to expected data. Now, I'm a stats guys, maybe you're not really into this, but if you just let me explain, if you take a look at the goals and assists Cunha and Mbeumo scored last season, 20 goals for Brian Mbeumo and 15 goals for Cunha. Amazing. But if you look at the expected goals they accumulated last season, for Cunha, for an example, is 8 xg and he scored 15 goals. For Mbeumo is 12 xg and he scored 20 goals. So what does that tell us? Is that Cunha and Mbeumo pretty much scored more goals than they were supposed to. Now, it's not something like it's not going to happen again or something like that, but it is a point I'm trying to make here and why I think that we should try to avoid these players because in my opinion I think that both of are great players, but they're going to go to Manchester United. They have a lot of decent players, so it's not like Mbeumo was the talisman from Brentford, Cunha was the best player from Wolverhampton, but now that they're going to go to Manchester United, it's not going to be so easy to be involved in all the goals. So definitely my personal opinion is that Mbeumo is not going to score 20 goals this season for Manchester United. Now again, the prices are correct. Mbeumo was on penalties for Brentford, he scored a lot of goals. Also Cunha was on penalties, so both these players are not going to be on penalties for Manchester United. So that's a downgrade obviously, but the price is correct, 8 millions for both of them. If the fixtures were a little bit better, I think that we can discuss a little bit about them being options, but at this stage of the season, early at least, I don't think that I'm going to own any Manchester United players for the purely for the fact that the fixtures are not great. They overperformed and yeah, they obviously need to adapt to Manchester United. Let's see how they are going to do now. If we talk a little bit about Bruno Fernandes, he's priced at 9 millions. Now, again, Bruno Fernandes was an amazing player in FPL for the last 3, 4, 5 seasons. So I don't think that he's suddenly going to be a bad FPL option. Um, but yeah, maybe it is a surprise for you, maybe not. But I just thought about the price. So 9 millions for Bruno Fernandes, who's also with all these transfers for Manchester United. Bruno Fernandes probably is going to get a more deeper role. So if I have a player in FPL, I want him to be as close as possible to scoring goals, to getting assists. Now, again, we need to see how Manchester United are going to line up with all these players. Let's see if they're going to sign also a striker. The good part about Bruno Fernandes is that he's on penalties, and obviously he's really good at them. So that's nice. But again, with the new metric, I don't know. We need to see how Bruno Fernandes is going to do. But my first reasoning here, um, trying to explain why to avoid Bruno Fernandes, is that he's 9 millions, and for an example, someone like Florian Wirtz is 8.5. So I just think that for a cheaper price you can get pretty much better players, in my opinion, from my perspective in FPL. Yeah, maybe these players are not all of them going to be on penalties, but surely you just can't rely on penalties for if you want to own Bruno Fernandes. So yeah, I think that at the moment, at least, these midfielders from Manchester United are going to need to be avoided, at least in the first stage of the season. But let's move to the next team. Okay, now moving next on my list, we have players from Everton. To be honest with you, I wanted to pick more players from Everton on this list to avoid, but as I looked into the stats, obviously, maybe I underestimated Everton's defense a little bit, because as you can see, they got 12 clean sheets last season, considering that they were fighting for relegation. Now, again, Pickford, the first one is 5.5 millions, which I think that it is a deserved price, considering that he was the top scoring goalkeeper in FPL in the last 2 seasons, and players like Ederson, Alisson, Raya were 5.5. So I think that's just deserved. I think that Raya was sixth, right, last season. Now, again, he's playing for Everton, a weaker side than those mentioned before, but they are a decent defense, or at least they were a decent defense in the last part of the season. They are going to get only better with David Moyes, but again, I think that with the new metric involved right now, with defensive contributions, that's just a killer for someone like Pickford, because although I thought that even without the new metric, 5.5 millions for Pickford, for a goalkeeper who's playing for Everton, a side who are fighting for relegation last season, is not amazing. And surely you can get better value goalkeepers at that price. Maybe you can save some cash to try to invest it into midfield. But now that we have these new metric defensive contributions, a player like Tarkovsky at 5.5 millions is going to be more appealing for me at the moment for from Everton. But again, I'm not even sure if his price is going to be really good value. We need to see how these defensive contributions are going to impact our FPL game, but it's looking like it could have a big factor, because if you take into consideration that a player like Tarkovsky would have scored with 40 more points last season that he was, that's a big gap. So yeah, we really need to focus on those players at the moment. 5.5 million for Tarkovsky, I think that it is okay, but I'm not sure if it is worth it at the moment. But for someone like Mikolenko, definitely is not worth it. 5 millions is going to be a fullback, so the fullbacks are going to be nerfed a little bit, let me just say it like that, in FPL. He's not a really attacking fullback in the first place, so that's why I think that we should avoid players like Mikolenko. And also his 5 millions, I think that you can get better players at a cheaper price. And with McNeil, obviously, there are many better options in that team. Someone like Njay could be a nice option, someone like Beto, but I think that McNeil, although he played just 21 games last season, as you can see, he got 8 assists somehow, but as you can see, his expected assists were something like 4, so he doubled his expected data. But I just think that he's not a player you really want to rely on early on in the season, and that's the thing. I think that starting the season, obviously, if you're not trying to bench boost and wildcard gaming 2 or something like that, you want to pick some players who you can rely on at the start of the season. You know that they're going to play close to 90 minutes. So yeah, that's the thing. I think that the Everton's defense is priced really high at the moment this season, but for good reasons, because they got 12 clean sheets. Maybe I underestimated them a little bit, but we need to see how they're going to do this season. But don't forget, guys, we're not talking about a team like Liverpool, Arsenal, Manchester City level of defense, but they could be decent with the new metric. Now, let's move to the next part. Now, moving forward, we have three defenders from Liverpool: Frimpong, Kerkez, and Konate. Yeah, I know, don't hate me. You're not going to see a lot of people putting Kerkez on an avoid list, but I'm going to try to explain it a little bit. Now, let's start with both of them, Frimpong and Kerkez, so the left back and the right back from Liverpool, because I really want to have him in my team. He's a really attacking defender, but I guess that's what makes him a good trap in FPL, right? Now, again, they have both of them have competition, so that's why they are on the list. We can't rely on their minutes. We need to see the preseason, how they are going to line up, how they're going to play at Liverpool in those preseason games firstly, but again, I just can't see a world when Bradley and Robertson are not going to get any minutes, because if you look at the stats, they are amazing. For Kerkez, he played 38 games for Bournemouth. Frimpong scored a lot of goals, a lot of assists for Bayer Leverkusen last season. They are priced at 6 millions, which I don't have a problem with that, because if they're going to be nailed to play 90 minutes every gaming, I just think that they are really cheap, to be honest with you. But this new metric, they are trying to force us, maybe it's not the best word, but to try to play it safe a little bit, to try to find those defenders who are nailed, who are making a lot of interceptions, a lot of clearances, a lot of tackles. But again, I think that there is huge potential with players like Frimpong and Kerkez. Obviously, Liverpool are going to get a lot of clean sheets this season, but the real problem is not the price, not the stat, is the possibility of not starting, obviously, because Liverpool have some tricky fixtures in the first three game weeks of the season. Maybe you want to have someone like Kerkez, and in game week 4 suddenly they are going to play against Burnley and Robertson is going to play and Kerkez on the bench. So surely you don't really want to be in that situation. Now again, if you can nail it when these players are going to be benched, then fine, you can just buy them and play them when they're going to start, but that's pretty much impossible at the moment. But again, I think that there is potential for them. I just think that at the early stage of the season, we should try to avoid them a little bit. But again, I think that Kerkez could be more nailed, honestly, than someone like Frimpong, but both have really good competition. Bradley is going to play some minutes. Frimpong, his advantage is that he can play also as a right winger when Mohamed Salah is not going to play. But again, how often does that happen? Kerkez, a lot of people are underestimating Robertson. I think if he's going to stay at Liverpool, he's going to play a lot of games. Now, if you look at the stats last season, you can see that Robertson played a lot of games last season. Obviously, he was rotated with Tsimikas, but again, if both of them are going to be at Liverpool, I just can't see a world when Robertson is just going to be on the bench for all the games last season. I think that he's going to play a good amount, not necessarily a good amount, but he's going to get 5-10 game weeks from 38, and that's just enough to put me off at the moment for someone like Kerkez. And with Konate, he's 5.5 millions, he's a little bit more cheaper. I just don't think that it's worth it. His attacking threat is not amazing, or at least it wasn't last season. And for 0.5 millions, you have someone like Virgil van Dijk, who you are 100% sure he's going to start every game week, 90 minutes, some good threat. He scored some goals last season, so yeah, I just don't think that it is worth it to buy someone like Konate at the moment. Now let's move to the next one. Next up, we have three midfielders from Manchester City: Foden, Cherki, and Marmoush. Now, as you can see here, Foden 8 millions, Marmoush 8.5, Cherki 6.5. He's the cheapest one, obviously, of them all. Now, again, I'm not saying that these players at some point are not going to be great players in FPL. I just think that at the moment we need to avoid them. Man City played in the Club World Cup. They're not going to get a lot of preseason games for us to make a good image of how their lineup is going to be. And although with Pep Guardiola, we don't know exactly how they are going to line up, and it doesn't really matter if, let's just say, Foden is going to start 5 games in the preseason. Obviously they don't have 5 games, but let's just try to make an exercise here. It doesn't mean that he's going to start again 5 games after that. So we know that Foden was really bad last season in terms of minutes, in terms of games. He got 7 goals, 3 assists. His price is nice, 8 millions. If he's going to play 90 minutes every game, obviously he's going to be a great value. I can guarantee you that at some point, one of these three players is going to score a lot of goals, getting a lot of assists. So if you can nail which one of these three players is going to get the most minutes in Manchester City, then yeah, you can just pick them and surely don't avoid them. But for me at the moment, it's an avoid. If I was to pick one of them at the moment, is going to be Marmoush, because he was listed as a forward last season. Now he's going to be a midfielder. He's 8.5, so he's not really cheap or something like that, but he has some potential to be a bargain at that price, to be honest with you, because he's going to be a midfielder. But again, at that price, you have players like you have Florian Wirtz, who at the moment, I think that's just my opinion, but I think that he's going to get really good minutes. Liverpool paid a lot of money for him. So again, you can find obviously more nailed players at that price bracket, but again, Marmoush could be a nice option. He scored 7 goals, 1 assist last season. His XG wasn't something amazing, 5.4, because Marmoush scored a lot of difficult goals where you don't expect usually a normal player to score. We know how many bangers he scored last season. Cherky stats last season were amazing, 6.5 millions. He could be the bargain of this trio, because if he's going to be a starter for Manchester City, that's just an amazing price to have a midfielder, an offensive midfielder for Manchester City. So yeah, I think that at the moment we need to see what's going to happen, but I would try to avoid having a lot of players from Manchester City, although the fixtures are decent for them. You can buy some defenders. If you think that Marmoush is going to be nailed, you can buy him. If you think Cherky is going to play all the games, you can buy him. But again, at the moment, I'm not sure how City's midfield is going to look like going into next season. So I will try to avoid them at least for the first stages of the new season. Now let's move to Newcastle. Moving forward, we have some players from Newcastle, and yeah, no surprises here. But again, Murphy, Elanga, Barnes. Elanga, the new player from Newcastle, he just transferred in from Nottingham Forest. Let's talk a little bit about Murphy, because this is going to be shorter and simpler. He's going to be 6.5 millions, which I think that it's not a really expensive price. But again, with all these players, you have the risk of minutes, the risk of rotation. They usually don't get 90 minutes every game, and that's why also it's a main reason why I think that we should try to avoid them, at least at the moment. Murphy was sensational last season, don't get me wrong. I had him in my team for a long period of time, but we were a little bit lucky, let's be honest. He was a little bit lucky to score that amount of goals and assists, because as you can see, he scored 8 goals and 13 assists last season from an XA and XG of 6. So if we look at the assists, he got 13 assists with 6 expected assist data. Now he more than doubled his double outperformed his statistics for last season. Now again, I'm not saying that can't happen, a lot of players can do this, but obviously his xgi also per 90 minutes was 0.5, so he was a great pick last season, but now he's a little bit more expensive. He's going to be rotated a little bit. Newcastle just bought someone like Elanga, so his minutes are going to be shared a little bit. And talking about Elanga, 7 millions, I think that it is a pretty much expensive price a little bit for him, because again, he wasn't playing 90 minutes for Nottingham Forest anyway. Now I think that is going to be a great fit to Newcastle. I think that it's a great transfer for them, but he scored 6 goals, 11 assists. He also outperformed his expected assist data, as you can see here. But again, with these players, the problem is that they are going to be rotated a little bit. We need to see what's going to happen to Newcastle, but they have Murphy, Elanga, Barnes, Gordon. These players are going to compete for 2 spots. So is going to be some rotation, because obviously Isak is going to start every game if he's going to remain in Newcastle. They are also going to try to sign someone like Wisa, so we're going to see some rotation for the wingers. or but just maybe if they are going to change the formation, then yeah, maybe these players could become an option at some point. Now Barnes was one of the best players from Newcastle last season. As you can see, he scored 9 goals and 5 assists, but again, he's the more expensive, the more explosive player, sorry, the player I really like to have in FPL. So I think that he could be a great option. He's 6.5, definitely. I think that at the moment I prefer someone like Barnes to someone like Murphy, because I think that he's going to play a little bit more minutes than someone like Murphy. But again, all these mids, I think that they're going to compete for some spots. Now, if we take into consideration that if Gordon, for example, is going to stay at Newcastle, I think that his first choice left winger. And if we take that into consideration, then these three players are going to compete for a spot on the right wing, and that's just really bad. So that's why I think that at the moment we should try to avoid them. Now let's move to the last part. Okay, now in the last part we're going to talk about the rest of the players. I think that we should be trying to avoid, at least for the start of the season, starting with Lewis Kelly from Arsenal. Now again, I think that he has the potential to be a really nice great value player, a really good player in FPL. But at the moment, as you can see, his price is 5.5 millions. With that price, you can get someone like Tarkovsky, you can get someone like Munoz, which I think that are way better players at the moment, considering the new metric. Also, he scored 2 goals, he got 0 assists, he played 23 games for Arsenal last season, but it was a special case for Arsenal last season because as you may know, Gabriel got injured at some point, Saliba got injured at some point, so they didn't really have all the defenders available. Arsenal just got another two defenders, I think, this season, but usually for the start of the season, they are going to start with Gabriel and Saliba as a center back pairing, and then it remains two free spots for a lot of players: Calafiori, Zinchenko, Ben White, Timber, Lewis Kelly. So I just think that it's going to be some rotation. Obviously, probably I missed some players from Arsenal, but you get my point. I think that is going to be some rotation. I don't think that he's going to play 90 minutes every game. So for me, I think that it is an easy avoid for the start of the season. Also, the fixtures are not amazing for Arsenal to start the season. The second one is the Delap from Chelsea, 6.5 millions. I think that it is a nice price. But again, they have Nicolas Jackson, they have Joao Pedro, who just played really good in the last games for Chelsea, sorry. So he's a little bit more cheaper than Joao Pedro with 1 million, but if Joao Pedro is going to start most games for Chelsea, obviously the Lap is not going to do that. So you don't really want to spend 6.5 millions for a player who's just going to be subbed in for 30, 40 minutes. Now, again, I'm not saying that at some point the Lap could get that spot into the starting lineup for Chelsea, but at the moment it's not looking like it's going to happen anytime soon. So that's why I think that he's an avoid. Then we have Sessegnon and Raul Jimenez from Fulham. Now an interesting thing here, Sessegnon is going to be a midfielder now, so his position just got changed, and that's what I think that it diminishes a little bit his appeal, because obviously when he was a defender scoring goal, that was amazing, right? Now he's going to be a midfielder. He's 5.5, so it's not an expensive midfielder, and I don't know, maybe at some point he could be an option, but I just think that there are way better options at that price. And also a little bit more, if you put up some cash, you're going to get better options. He scored 4 goals and 2 assists last season. He played just 16 games. We know that. And also the minutes are going to be a big risk for Sessegnon. That's also a big reason why he's on my avoids list. With Raul Jimenez, the thing is, his stats weren't horrible last season. He scored 12 goals, got 3 assists. He played 38 games. Now, obviously, some games he was on the bench when Muniz started, so the same applies to Muniz in this situation. Raul Jimenez, Rodrigo Muniz, I think that both are an avoid at the moment, because they are going to share the minutes, obviously. You don't know exactly when these players are going to start. So Raul Jimenez could start 3 games, then Muniz could get a run of 5 games. So that's why I think that they are an avoid. Obviously, he's not also an explosive player or something like that. He's on penalties, which I think that it makes him a little bit better as an FPL option. But again, at the moment, an avoid. Gibbs White, I just think that he's a little bit too expensive for what he can offer. 7.5 millions. I just think that you have better players at that price. You can buy someone like Eze. with that price. He scored 7 goals and 11 assists last season in 34 game weeks. His XGI per 90, as you can see, is 0.3, and most of that is also expected assist data. So I just think that it is an avoid at the moment. Son Johnson from Spurs, 8.5 millions for Son, the same price you can get someone like Wirtz, someone like Marmoush. So I just think that we should avoid him. 7 goals, 10 assists is not bad last season for 30 games, but his minutes weren't amazing. There isn't any things to suggest us that Son is going to be more nailed this season to play more minutes and every gaming, so that's why I think that he's an avoid at the moment. The same goes for Brennan Johnson. Yeah, they just bought Kudus, who's 6.5, so I think that you should take a look into him maybe if you want to buy a midfielder from Spurs. But Brennan Johnson's stats last season were amazing at some points: 11 goals, 6 assists, 0.5 GI for per 90 minutes. Now, again, there's going to be some rotation at Spurs. That's why I think that we should try to avoid him. And also, I think that he's priced a little bit too much for what he can offer. And obviously, Robertson, I think that this is not a surprise. I don't really understand why FPL priced him at 6 millions, the same as Kerkez and Frimpong, when clearly he's not going to get as many minutes. Now I can get that point that if someone like Kerkez is going to get injured, then suddenly Robertson is going to be playing every game week and he's going to be an amazing FPL option. But surely I just think that the price is too expensive at the moment. Even with that injury, I think that 5.5 could have been maybe a little bit better. But again, I don't really need to try to explain too much why Robertson is an avoid. This was it for today. Thank you so much for watching my content. Leave a like if you enjoyed, hit that subscribe button if you're new around here, and I'm going to see you next time. Bye. Bag pura lor, când mă întreabă oamenii de unde sunt le zic de va. Apoi îmi bag pura lor.